For today's quick tips for DMs, I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit more about how cults of chaos, demons of the abyss, will actually operate. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Yes, with another quick tips for DMs, talking about the operations and maneuvers of cults in service of the abyss. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you've already gone on ahead and registered yourself on such a legendary roster of incredible heroes, then go on down, hit that like button, and share the video far and wide. But now let's talk about how agents of chaos operate. So, to begin with, like I said before in last week's video, which probably a little bit more rushed than it should have been, cults dedicated in service to one of the demon lords or to the abyss itself will form in much a similar manner to how cults dedicated to the nine hells form and function. They'll certainly look at figureheads, leaders, and look to try to gain some kind of influence or direct their influence over those positions, but a cult in service of the abyss will be less concerned about whether or not they actually get them. They'll actually be more open, more generally open to just getting whoever they can involved, because at that point it's just more about numbers, and they're not going to be looking to achieve the exact same goals because, well, a cult of the abyss is not typically looking to maintain society, to turn it into a factory that is reliably sending souls down to that lower plane. What they're looking to do is upend and ultimately destroy society, all of existence, in fact, and they'll do this one by one. Now, the ancient, more long-term thinking leaders of a cult, so powerful demons, demon lords, they'll look at things from a long-term perspective, but only by virtue of the fact that they're immortal beings, for whom time is a relative thing. A century might as well be a blink in the eye for them. But eventually, they give in to those base urges, and they're really not all that concerned about whether or not a particular town survives. It's going to be destroyed at some point anyways. It only needs to be kept intact for as long as necessary to fulfill whatever function it's supposed to have. And if it can't, well, then they're going to just wipe it out in a fury anyways. So that's one big difference there. The other thing is, like I said before, they're looking to gather in as many people as possible. So because they're gathering so many people, so many different people from so many different walks of life, they're going to be varying levels of skills, abilities, and the different things that they bring to the table. Now, that might seem like a disadvantage, and in some ways it is. They don't have the same degree of discipline, organization, leadership. They don't have a baseline skill level, but that also makes it harder to identify who the members are, because the members can be anybody from any walk of life, and certainly madmen, people who are ill or have become corrupted in some other fashion through contacts with dark magics and the like. They've been driven mad by the horrors they've seen. They'll certainly be likely members, but good luck getting information out of them. It's going to be mad, incoherent ramblings, and even the more sane members who join are eventually going to lose themselves in the utter depravity and madness of a cult of chaos. And like I said before, when they set up, they are looking to play on base emotions, to get those urges coming out to the fore, tearing down all those barriers, all of those bits of decorum, that frivolous dressing of civilization is all going to be ripped away. So they'll favor places like brothels, taverns, even places like salons. For example, the French Revolution. The French Revolution had a lot of its roots in different salons, because salons were where people from different walks of life could mingle, could talk, and all the people of the Third Estate began sharing all of these ideals that were setting in about Why is the first estate and second estate, why are they taking all the wealth? Why are they getting all the food and money while so many of us are jobless, homeless, penniless, and starving? and eventually kicked off the French Revolution. There's more to it than that. I'm very much so paraphrasing and giving you a very brief overview of it, but that's one of the advantages of these places, these kinds of places where so many people from so many walks of life can interact. It gives you a big intersection of any kind of city life. It's a good cross-section of so many different personality types, jobs, stations, and the like. So people can interact in so many ways, and that makes it a bit harder to pin down who is who is affiliated, who isn't. And then you also look at things from a larger tactical, strategic level. When it comes down to actually fighting, they're more likely to fight in smaller, disorganized groups, or if they are gathered together, it's going to be a big, angry mob that's given a general direction or two. They'll typically direct their fury at authority figures, places of authority, so fortresses, dungeons, the sheriff's office, any guard towers that the city guard operate out of, the mayor's office, the lord's house, the governor's mansion, all of these things. They'll direct their fury at these bastions of law and order and try to tear them down. Those will typically be the first targets, because remember, they're not looking to set anything up long term. They're looking to destroy it all, to tear it all down, to bring down civilization and let anarchy and chaos reign. So, devils will very much maintain these institutions and make a grab for the power that they represent and use it, whereas chaos forces will look to destroy those things, whether it's symbolic or actually physical, as if society only functions because everybody believes it should function, that there's a social contract, that everything's going this way, that money has any value. It's just something we have all grown up into believing and agreeing upon. And a cult of chaos will tear those things down, will tear it apart and render them valueless. And hell, if they can't gain leverage over a leader, some local leaders say they can't gain any leverage over the Lord Governor or the sheriff, they'll just kill them. They won't worry about replacing them. They'll just kill them. And in the chaos that's caused by that, in the wake of a lack of leadership, then they'll strike and move further. They'll try to cause further mayhem and chaos. With the Lord Governor dead and the sheriff gone, now suddenly a plague hits. Oh no, what's happening? A plague? Our leaders are gone? Who's making decisions? Who's in charge? And as soon as somebody steps up to try to be effective for that, they'll either present their own person to add further chaos to the matter, on a person that's claiming their own legitimacy, and try to split the base, split these forces so that they're now opposing one another. And while those two bases are opposing one another, fighting and going round and round in circles, they can rally the lower classes, the masses of people, and get riots going. And with riots going, that stretches the guard ever thinner, ever drawing out their numbers, ever weakening them as casualties mount up. And then once it hits that breaking point, they just need one more thing to happen to make everything collapse. What that is just depends on what exactly the story is you have in mind, but that's just one way things can progress. There's no one set way for chaos to happen. There's so many different routes. And if you want a good example, think about the Joker, especially from the Dark Knight, or the Batman movies with Christian Bale. That's a pretty good example of a leader with long-term goals and plans, but is also very much doing things spur of the moment. He's got a lot of resources on hand, and he's quick, he's adaptable, he will move to maximize whatever advantages he has in a given situation, but the plan is more of a general goal than a specific plan, although there are some things that are definitely very well planned out. Batman and the Gotham police can't even get a bead on him, can barely get a read on him without going through the absolute extremes of pinning him down. So, that should give you a pretty good idea on how a cult of chaos forms, grows, and generally how they will go forward in seeing their plans come to fruition, even if those plans are just ultimately destruction. But that's, like I said, it's the infinite layers and chaos of the abyss. There's so many other things that could happen. If you take Graz, the demon prince of pleasure, Like, he's not beyond having long-term plans for getting a whole world absorbed into the triple realms of Azagrast. But I could go on. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know either way, and I'll be more than happy to engage in discussion with you. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.